The Blood Nebula had always belonged to hunters. A sprawling crimson storm hanging between dying stars, it was a place where predators came to test their supremacy, where star whales screamed across ion tides, where ancient wrecks drifted like the bones of forgotten gods. For millennia, only one species had ruled these haunted hunting grounds: the Vorn. To the galaxy, the Vorn were myth. To the prey, they were nightmares given flesh. Apex, killers towering, mantled in midnight black hide, minds sharpened by 1,000 generations of conquest. Their fleets moved like storms. Their worlds bred warriors like fire bred smoke. No. Among them, no name was feared more than Krath. Alpha of alphas, the blade thinker, strategist without mercy. To be Krath was to command not by title, but by the sheer gravity of presence. His eyes, like burning obsidian, carried the cold intelligence of a creature who had never lost. Every scar on his body was deliberate, earned, worn like scripture. Tonight, as his flagship drifted through the glowing mist of the Blood Nebula, Krath felt something he had not felt in centuries. Irritation. Report, he growled, voice like cracking stone. His second in command, Vorn, bowed his head. Even hardened Vorn warriors stood straighter around Krath, as if their spines remembered instinctively who ruled the food chain. My alpha. Vorn hesitated, dangerous for a Vorn. Another prey world has gone silent. Krath's mandibles flexed. Which one? The Isufor. The irritation deepened. The Isufor had been a simple harvest world. Fragile bipeds, no fleet. No defenses worth mentioning. Explain, Krath demanded. Vorn swallowed. 3 weeks ago, the world stopped transmitting. Scouts sent to survey. Did not return. Krath exhaled slowly, the way an old volcano might exhale smoke before deciding whether to erupt. That is the 4th world this cycle, he said. Yes, my alpha. And the prey species were unrelated. Different sectors, different climates. No shared alliances, no shared technology. No shared anything, Vorn whispered, dread creeping into his voice. Yet all of them gone. Krath said nothing. Da. But his silence felt like a blade pressed against the room. The hunters of the galaxy had begun to fear the dark. Someone was killing prey worlds, not conquering, not raiding, erasing, and that was an offense the Vorn could not tolerate. The galaxy was a vast ecological ladder, and at its peak, only the Vorn stood. They were the definition of supremacy. The living proof that the strong devoured the weak. Something was challenging the natural order. Open the map, Krath commanded. The chamber dimmed as a holographic spread of star systems bloomed in the air worlds, glowing softly, like fireflies on a cosmic tapestry. 4 of them blinked red, the vanished prey worlds. They formed a line, a direction, a path, straight toward the Blood Nebula. Krath narrowed his eyes. It comes here, Vorn shuddered. Even the red glow of the nebula outside seemed to pulse with unease. My alpha. What kind of prey becomes the hunter? Krath lowered his voice to a rumbling whisper. All prey dreams of striking back someday. Most die before they grow teeth. A third voice entered the chamber, soft, tremoring. Alpha. It was the ship's oracle, Savantarith, a runt by Vorn standards, fragile-limbed, half-blind from the neural implants woven into his skull. But even Krath valued his sight. Speak, Krath ordered. Aerith's breath quivered. The disappearances. I studied the patterns, the timing, the level of silence. Your point? It is not a predator. It's not in the way we understand it. What then? Vorn snapped. A civilization, Aerith whispered. One rising, expanding, learning, testing its strength against the galaxy. Krath tilted his head, tested on prey. Yes, Alpha. And soon. On us. Aerith nodded slowly. Yes, Alpha Krath. Almost smiled. Almost. Let them come. I welcome rivals, but something dark glimmered in Aerith's eyes. A warning. You misunderstand my alpha. These beings, they do not behave like predators, or conquerors, or prey. They are something. Inconsistent, irrational, unpredictable, Krath asked. Unexplainable, Aerith corrected. Krath's voice turned hard. All things have patterns. Not this, Aerith whispered. Their strategies shift from precision to chaos. It's from sacrifice to overwhelming force. No logic, no biological precedent, no consistent doctrine. It is as if they are. It's guided by something unseen. Krath's gaze sharpened. Guided by what? The oracle swallowed, trembling. Belief. The room went still. Belief, Vorn scoffed. Faith is the weakness of prey. Not this faith, Aerith murmured. Something in them believes in an order beyond the stars. As if the universe itself answers them at times. They pray before battle. They whisper gratitude after survival. They claim they are watched by something vast. Krath stared at him. You imply they believe in gods? No. Aerith's voice shook. They believe in one. Krath rose from his throne. Slowly, predator slow. The chamber temperature dropped. Enough superstition, he said coldly. The galaxy is governed only by predation and strength. Anything else is myth. Even so, something in Krath's chest stirred. It's an old, unwanted memory. A flicker of something he never allowed himself to acknowledge. The moment. Centuries ago, when a plasma beam should have killed him, but it bent, grazing past instead. A statistical impossibility. One he had never been able to explain. He had always dismissed it. But now? No. He crushed the thought like prey beneath his claws. Identify the species, he ordered. Aerith hesitated. We don't know much yet. Then tell me what you do know. The oracle inhaled sharply. They called themselves. A sudden alarm sliced through the air's shrill, violent screech that sent every warrior snapping to attention. The hologram flickered. Red warning sigils flooded the chamber. Vorn barked. Alpha. Something just breached the nebula perimeter, Krath snarled. Pray do not breach. Vorn's voice cracked. It isn't prey. Then what? A new hologram bloomed above them. A ship. Angular. Dark. With a silhouette unlike anything in Vorn records. It drifted through the red fog with impossible silence, engines barely glowing like a ghost gliding through blood. No heat signature. No radio chatter. No escort. Just one ship. Watching them. Krath's pulse quickened. Not with fear, but with something far rarer. Curiosity, Aerith whispered. Alpha. That configuration. I've seen it in translated fragments from the Silent Worlds. Before they vanished, the oracle's voice cracked. They called them humans. The word felt wrong. Soft, small, insignificant. But the ship watching them was anything but. Humans, Krath echoed, tasting the word like a blade. Vorn's breath hitched. It's alone. Do you want it captured? Krath stared into the shifting blood-red mist. Into the silent, waiting vessel. Alone. Mechanical lights dead. Weapons cold. A hunter observing another hunter. No, Krath said. Voice low and dark. We watch it. As if in answer, the human ship activated a single light, a tiny white signal pulsing once through the nebula. A signal too simple, too bold, too human. Aerith whispered, horrified. What does it mean? Krath understood immediately. A challenge. I am here. Krath felt a spark ignite inside Haman. Ancient primal excitement he had not felt in centuries. Something had finally climbed the ladder. Something that believed it had a right to stand on the mountaintop with the Vorn. Finally, Krath murmured. Vorn stiffened. Alpha. Krath leaned forward, eyes burning. A species that believes it can hunt the predators. Outside the ship, the red mist twisted like flame. The human vessel remained still, waiting, watching, unafraid. Krath's claws tightened around the armrest, not from fear, but anticipation. Prepare the fleet, he commanded. The hunt begins. Aerith whispered, almost democratique, Alpha. If they truly believe they are guided by something larger, Krath snarled softly, then we will show them what the universe really worships. The human light flickered again. Twice, this time. Aerith translated with a cracked voice. We found you. Krath exhaled slowly. So be it. The nebula darkened around them as though the universe held its breath.
Oh.
For the first time in galactic history, the apex predators felt the first faint taste of being prey. The Blood Nebula absorbed sound like a cathedral of ancient dust. No echoes. No life. Just a vast crimson shroud that swallowed even starlight. Yet somehow, in that impossible silence, a whisper moved. Not voice. Not signal. Something older like intention. Passing through the void, Trath felt it before any sensor detected a thing. A pressure in the air. A shift in gravity. A sensation that something unseen had entered the battlefield long before the first shot. He exhaled slowly. His instincts, the same instincts that had kept him alive through 100 wars, tightened like a coiled beast. The human ship still hung motionless in the mist. Alone. Silhouette.com. Still. Watching the entire Vorn fleet as though it weighed nothing. Vorn lowered his voice. Alpha. Their audacity borders on insanity. Krath didn't answer. He was studying the vessel. No visible weapons. No shielding flares. No defensive posture at all. Just a single, cold ship staring down a fleet of apex predators. Insanity, Krath murmured at last, is simply courage disguised in forms we don't understand. Eartha Oracle shivered at those words. He could feel something too. A presence. A pressure. A meaning in the mist itself. As if the nebula had become aware. As if it now watched the Vorn with human eyes. Varen's voice cut the tension. Alpha, shall we lock our targeting arrays? Krath didn't move. Not yet. My Alpha. We must not. Yet. The single human vessel made no attempt to flee or hide. It was bait, or a test, or something else entirely. Krath felt his heart beat slow into a predatory rhythm. These humans. They were wrong. They didn't move like prey. They didn't posture like rivals. They didn't even behave like predators. Something about their stillness carried a quiet defiance, as if they were prepared to let the universe decide the victor rather than force the outcome. Themselves, Aerith whispered. Alpha. They are praying. Krat's eyes narrowed. Explain. I am sensing microsignals coming from within their ship. Pulses, rhythms, neural patterns. The humans on board are synchronizing their minds. For strategy, Vorn asked. No, Aerith said. For faith. Faith. The word tasted foreign to Krath. Soft, useless, delusional. Yet the moment Aerith spoke it, the nebula's red mist rippled as if something enormous exhaled. Krath shook the feeling off. Faith does not win battles. Aerith hesitated. Might win something else. Before Krath could reply, a new alert flared to life. Vorn stiffened. Alpha, another object just appeared. More human ships? No, Vorn said, dread curling his voice. Pieces. Krath turned sharply. Pieces of what? Vorn's hands trembled over the control interface. Our scouts. 12 ships. The ones we lost near Thesephor. They've drifted into the nebula. Drifted. As if placed. Krath's eyes darkened. Show me. The hologram flickered. Then the debris floated into view. There was no scorch damage. No plasma scoring. No structural collapse. The scout ships hadn't been destroyed. They had been disassembled cleanly, methodically, as though someone had studied every nut and bolt, then rearranged the wreckage into geometric patterns drifting in the fog. Krath's voice dropped to a growl. Humans did this. Yes, Aerith whispered, but not out of malice. Out of curiosity? Curiosity? The word stung Krath more than mockery. The Vorn were the apex hunters of the galaxy. Yet, the humans hadn't even destroyed their ships. They had studied them. Like hunters examining tools belonging to another hunter, Vorn recoiled. Monsters. Aerith shook his head. No, not monsters. Students. Krath's claws tightened around the armrest. Not in fear, in fury. The humans weren't afraid of the Vorn. Worse, they were learning from them. Varen's jaw snapped in anger. Alpha, permit me to fire. Let us erase this insolence. Krath lifted a single claw. Varen froze. We do not strike until we understand, Krath said. But Alpha Krath's voice turned lethal. Do you wish to die ignorant? Varen bowed his head at once. The nebula's mist thickened, swirling around the human vessel. A soft white glow formed at its bow. Then a signal appeared on their display. A simple transmission. A single frequency. A single phrase. The translation scrolled across the Vorn hologram. We see you, Varen snarled. How dare they? Another pulse flickered. A second message. We are not your prey. Krath's pulse slowed, deepened, focused. He leaned forward. Open a line, he commanded. Varen hesitated. To? Them? Do it. The chamber lights dimmed as the comlink engaged. Static. Silence. Then a soft human voice came through the void. We hoped you would answer. The voice was male, calm, grounded. A tone that carried no fear, no posturing, only awareness turned care. Spoke carefully. Human. Identify yourself. Soft breath. My name is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Vanguard. Humans had names. Soft names. Deceptive names. Krath tasted it. Why are you here? We're searching, the human replied. For what? For the truth. The answer was so unexpected that even Varen blinked. Krath narrowed his eyes. Truth of what? The human's voice turned quieter, warmer. Of what hunts what? The Vorn chamber stilled. Krath felt something cold whisper across the back of his mind. This human wasn't taunting him, wasn't threatening, wasn't cowering. He was stating a fact, a simple, quiet truth. Humans did not come to run. They came to understand. Varen snarled. You expect us to believe this idiocy? You destroy our scouts and then seek a philosophy lesson? Captain Ward's voice remained steady. We didn't destroy them. We dismantled them. Why? To learn. Krath's eyes narrowed. Learn what? A pause. Then Ward spoke a sentence that would haunt Vorn history forever. How apex predators think. The room froze. Even the nebula outside seemed to stop moving. Krath exhaled once, slow and deliberate. You presume much. Human. No, Ward said softly. We prepare much. Krath's jaw tightened. This human. He was too calm, too composed. Either he was a madman or he knew something Krath did not. Then Krath heard it, barely audible. A whisper behind the human's voice. Father, guide us. A quiet human prayer. Small, soft, but to Krath's ears. It cut through the silence like a blade. Aerith's breath caught in his throat. Alpha. Their faith is not weakness. It binds them, Krath snarled. Silence. But in the dark recesses of his mind, something flickered. An echo of that old miracle he had never explained. The survival that made no sense. A moment that felt like intervention. He forced the memory away. Human, Krath growled. If you came seeking truth, then here it is. The Vorn rule this galaxy. The human did not hesitate. But not the universe. Krath's grip tightened. Explain. Ward's tone carried a depth that unsettled even the hardiest warriors. We don't believe the universe belongs to any species. Not yours, not ours. We believe it belongs to something greater. Something that shaped all of us with intention. Krath felt his heartbeat shift. A god. A creator, Ward corrected gently. And we believe he didn't place predators at the top. He placed potential. The chamber air thinned. Crash leaned forward. Slow, lethal, then prove it. Ward did not answer with words. Instead, the human ship vanished. Instantly. No warp flare. No engine trail. No gravitational ripple. One moment it existed, the next it was simply gone. Krath shot to his feet. Find them. Varen frantically scanned. They didn't jump. They didn't move at sublight. They just disappeared. Aerith trembled violently. Alpha. I sense them, but not in space. In intention and what? Varen barked. They are where they choose to be, Aerith whispered, voice cracking. Humans don't navigate space. They navigate, meaning the nebula roared with sudden motion. Then the human ship reappeared. Behind them, a position no ship, no species had ever reached without being detected. Krat felt a chill crawl down his spine. Humans. They weren't prey. They weren't predators. They were something else. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Ward's voice came back through the calm as ever. Now, do you understand why your scouts never returned? Krath stared into the mist. Stared at the impossible. Stared. At arrival, he had never imagined. Humans, small, soft, fragile, yet capable of disappearing from the eyes of Apex. Predators capable of moving where intention guided them, where meaning anchored them, where faith whispered them forward. Varen's voice shook. Alpha, what are they? Krath inhaled, slow and deep. Never in his life had he spoken words like these. Something that believes. The nebula pulsed. The human ship's lights dimmed once more. Aerith whispered Alpha. They haven't attacked us yet. Why? Krath answered without looking away. Because they're studying how we react. Aerith swallowed. To decide if we are the threat. Krath nodded once. Or the prey. Outside the crimson fog, something shifted large. Powerful, approaching fast. Not Vor, not human. A third. Force. The nebula trembled as if the universe itself were bracing. Kraft's eyes narrowed. The game had changed. The humans had come for truth. But something else was coming for blood. The Blood Nebula pulsed like a living wound. Crimson tides shivered. Static rippled across every surface of Kraft's flagship. The very air seemed to tense. Something enormous was entering the arena, and it wasn't Vorn, and it wasn't human. Krath felt it in his bones. Before any sensor confirmed it, a presence. Older. Hungrier. Shadow-born long before the Vorn rose to dominance. Varen's claws trembled over the control hala. Alpha. Something is emerging from subspace. Krath didn't answer. He felt the nebula tighten, almost recoil. Aerith the Oracle staggered against a pillar, both hands clutching his skull. It's not. It's not a species. It's a swarm. A mind without body. A hunger without shape. Varen snarled. Speak sense. But Krath understood the moment the darkness coalesced in the mist. Lights flickered across the viewport. Then, hundreds snow. Thousands slid out of the nebula fog like black knives. Silent, fast, wrong, living ship spiked, skeletal. Moving in jagged stutters, like broken shadows learning how to exist. Krath's jaw locked. The hollow swarm, Iran gasped. It's real? That's a myth. No, Krath whispered. It's a consequence. Aerith's eyes went distant and terrified. They hunt meaning, not flesh, not metal. They hunt life itself. Anything that believes it has purpose. The Oracle turned pale, and both Vorn and humans are blazing beacons to them. The nebula trembled as the swarm drew closer, their tendrils glowing like cold fire. Every Vorn ship's sensors spat out corrupted data. Electronics flickered. Krath felt the temperature drop. Varen's voice cracked. Alf orders. Krath clenched his jaw. We hold position. Shields too full. Before Vorn warriors could obey, a calm voice came through the Captain Elias Ward. The human we see them too. Krath's mandibles twitched. Human. What is your intention? There was no fear in the human's voice. Only resolve to stop them. Before they reach your world, or ours. Varen recoiled. You intend to fight that? We don't have the luxury of running, Ward replied. Neither do you. Groth almost laughed. Almost the humans truly were irrational, courageous, foolish. Or perhaps something more, Ward continued. Voice low but steady, Alpha Krath. This is no longer a duel between hunters. Krath bristled. You and I are not allies? Then call it survival, Ward said softly. Two predators acknowledging the presence of a greater one. Krath's heartbeat slowed. The hollow swarm spread across the nebula like a plague made of thought. This thing did not fear Vorn, did not fear humans. It didn't even understand fear. It understood hunger, a pure, perfect hunger for consciousness, for anything that dared to believe it had meaning. The Orn believed in supremacy. Humans believed in purpose. Both glowed like torches in the void, Varen whispered. Horrified, Alpha, the swarm is reading us, sensing us. Aerith shook violently. They can taste conviction, Krath growled. Then let them choke on ours. But then the human ship moved, not fleeing, not charging. It walked through the nebula, not physically, no thrusters fired. It simply glided, drifting along currents of intention, following a path only humans could see. Krath stared. What are they doing? Aerith gasped. Following meaning. They're letting their belief guide their movement. Varen scoffed. Belief is madness. Is it? Aerith whispered. Because nothing else is navigating those coordinates. The human vessel drifted closer to the largest hollow swarm entity, an immense shape forming in the center of the fog. Like a black cathedral built by nightmares. Ward's voice echoed through the nebula. Alpha Krath. Ow. These things don't fear your weapons. They fear clarity. They fear purpose. They feed on doubt, not strength. Krath's eyes narrowed. Explain. When you believe your life has meaning, Ward said, they can't consume you. Krath stiffened. Aerith trembled. Alpha. That would explain why prey worlds vanished. They were broken, hopeless, empty of belief. Aron swallowed hard. They were defenseless. Yes, Ward answered. And why humans resist them. Krath felt a strange pulse stir in his chest. He hated the feeling. A whisper from the past. A memory of that impossible survival he'd buried deep. The unkillable predator nearly killed. Saved by nothing he could explain. Krath tightened his fists. I do not believe in cosmic guardians, Ward replied gently. You don't have to call it a guardian. Krath's voice rumbled. Then what do humans call it? Ward's tone softened. A reason. The nebula shifted. The hollow swarm sensed the human presence. Moved toward it. Tendrils extended. Lightning-like arcs of void energy crackled. Ward's voice returned this time, not through, comes, but projected through a wideband frequency as if meant for the entire nebula. All units. Anchor your minds, Krath frowned. Anchor. But Vorn's sensors began registering something. They had never recorded human RAVs. Synchronized, unified. The humans aboard the lone vessel were praying. Not fearfully. Not desperately, calmly, purposefully. ERY gasped. They're stabilizing their intention. Making their existence too coherent for the swarm to devour. Krath ground his teeth. Warriors of the Vorn do not pray, no, Aerith whispered. But we do believe in who we are. Krath went still. Varen stared at him. Alpha. The swarm's hunger intensified. Dark tendrils lashed out. The nebula roared with psychic pressure. The Vorn crew staggered. Krath alone remained still. In the silence, he heard it again, the human whisper. Guide us. The same whisper he'd once heard long ago, seconds before his impossible survival. Whisper he had refused to acknowledge. Krath looked into the red mist and whispered something. He had not spoken in 2 centuries. I am still here. Not a prayer. Not faith. A statement. A fact of existence. A belief in himself. A belief in purpose. A belief that he still had a place in this universe and would not be erased. The void trembled. ERY gasped. Alpha, the swarm is recoiling from you. The hollow tendrils hesitated, then withdrew slightly. Varen's eyes widened. Our Alpha-S conviction. It hurts them. Human comes activated. Ward's voice returned, warm and steady. Now you understand. Krath snarled not at Ward, but at the universe. For this moment only, human. We fight the same enemy, Ward answered without hesitation. Then let's win. The hollow swarm surged. The nebula erupted. Vorn engines roared. Human light cut through the crimson fog. The swarm screamed without sound. For the first time in galactic history, Vorn and human moved together. Krath raised his arm, voice booming like thunder. Predators. The Vorn roared, we do not bow. The nebula shook, and we do not break. The swarm faltered. Krath's final shout carved itself into the blood mist. We are not prey. And the hollow swarm launched its first strike. The storm did not pass. All night the winds screamed across the high cliffs of the frontier, carrying dust, memories, and the faint metallic scent of something unnatural. The dawn that followed was thin, pale, hesitant, as if the sun itself were afraid to rise on what came next. Eric stood at the very edge of the overlook, his silhouette etched against the horizon of fractured clouds. He had not slept. He didn't know how to not after what he learned beneath the shattered archive. Humanity's extinction had been engineered. Not by failure, not by inevitability, but by intent. Someone had wanted the human race erased, and the proof was now locked inside the encrypted shard he carried in his Paquita, sliver of stolen truth humming like a heartbeat. Behind him, Dr. Cade worked furiously on a portable holometer. His brows knotted. General Rourke stood with arms folded, face buried in the shadows of the early light. The techs whispered, soldiers sharpened their focus, and the remaining drones scanned the horizon. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Auric spoke without turning. Team status? Rourke stepped forward. Perimeter secure. Long-range scans show no Signar presence within 50 clicks, but his voice darkened. Something's moving underground, Cade added. Seismic irregularities. Pulsing patterns. Almost rhythmic. Auric finally turned, eyes narrowing. Living. Machine-like, Cade answered. But not fully mechanical. Not fully biological either. A hybrid, just like the truth he feared to uncover. Rourke approached him. I know that look. You've been thinking all night. I'm not thinking, Auric said coldly. Remembering, Rourke stiffened. He had seen this in him before, during the siege of Veganine, when Auric stood alone against 5 enemy warforms, so his team could escape. The look he wore now was the same one he had worn then. A decision was forming inside him, one that would change the fate of every living human. Cade activated the holometer. I cracked a portion of the shard, if not all, but enough. A sphere of silver-blue light expanded outward, revealing a half-corrupted but unmistakable projection. A star map with nodes glowing red like infected wounds. In the center was a symbol, a crest, a circle split by 3 jagged lines, the symbol of the Triumph sovereignty. Auric's pulse dropped. The sovereignty were extinct. They had died long before their fleet ever reached the Milky Way. Or so humanity had been told. Cade zoomed in on the corrupted details. The sovereignty wasn't destroyed. It went dark deliberately. They hid, they observed, they manipulated. Rourke's jaw tightened. And you're saying they engineered the anomaly that killed Earth? No, Cade replied slowly. I'm saying they evolved into something else. The holomap flickered and reformed. Now it showed images. Fragments, moments frozen in corrupted frame. Tall, sinewy silhouettes. Eyes like burning silver cracks. Bodies woven from matter that wasn't meant to exist. Auric felt his lungs tighten. The Signar. No, Cade said. The Signar were pawns, foot soldiers, tools of something far older. Rourke stepped closer. Then what are we dealing with? Cade lifted his eyes, fear visible for the first time. The last stage of the Triumph sovereignty's evolution. They merged with the anomaly. It became part of the quantum void itself. They're not a species anymore, he swallowed. They're an intelligence. Eric's voice became a whisper of iron. A living void. Cade nodded. It wants the shard back. The wind shifted hard and sudden. The ground trembled. Soldiers snapped into formation. Drones rose in defensive arcs. Rourke drew his sidearm. Ark's hand went instinctively to his rifle. Cade's holomap flickered, scrambled, then overloaded completely as a shockwave rippled outward from deep beneath the earth. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the stone cliffs, like something ancient awakening. What the hell was that? Rourke barked. Cade checked his wrist scanner. His face went white. Oh no, 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 no. The ground split open in a perfect circular pattern, precise as if cut by a cosmic blade. Dust fell inward like sand into an hourglass. Arik didn't move. He couldn't. A shape rose from the chasm, smooth, obsidian, shifting like liquid shadow. Not a creature, not a machine, a presence. A fragment of the void itself. Voice echoed in their minds, not heard but felt. Return the seed. Soldiers screamed at the psychic pressure. Some dropped to one knee. Drones fell from the sky like dead insects. Arik staggered but didn't fall. His voice cut through the crushing weight. No, the presence twisted, a ripple of darkness forming tall like a standing wave. You cannot comprehend what you carry. Arik clutched the shard in his fist. I understand enough, he hissed. You killed my world. The void pulsed violently, cracking the surrounding stone cliffs. Your world was a necessary sacrifice. Rourke fired a volley of plasma rounds into the rising shadow. They passed through like bullets through smoke. Cade Arik shouted. Weakness, no known physical form. Its phase shifted between matter and void. Nothing we have can hurt it. The void surged forward, but Arik did something no one expected. He stepped toward it. Arik, stop. Cade yelled. Rourke pulled him back, but he tore free, face illuminated by the unnatural glow. He held the shard up like a blade of light. You want it? Then answer me this: why Earth? Why humanity? The void stilled. Silence. Then, humanity was never meant to exist. Arik's blood froze. What does that mean? The void expanded, tendrils drifting like living smoke. You are an error in the fabric of sentience, a species born from chaos, unbound by design. A threat to order, Rourke muttered. They're afraid of us. Cade whispered. Holy stars. They wiped us out because they couldn't control us. Arik's heart pounded with fire. They fear what we could become, he breathed. What we will become. The void vibrated with agitation. Humanity must not return. Surrender the seed and your end will be swift. Arik's reply came like a blade. No, humanity will rise again. The void exploded in a soundless detonation, light and darkness interwoven. A shockwave hurled everyone backward. The cliff shattered, the air split like glass, and a vortex of anti-light spiraled upward. The presence was no longer speaking. It was attacking. Arik rolled to his feet, coughing blood. Cade, tell me we have something, anything. Cade shouted through static from his cum. The shard is reacting. It's syncing with the anomaly's frequency. Arik, whatever's inside it is waking up. Rourke dragged a fallen soldier behind cover. We need to retreat. No, Arik shouted. We hold. Arik, this is suicide. Then we die standing. The void lashed out with tendrils of quantum distortion. Stone crumbled, metal dissolved, soldiers vaporized. The sky cracked with silent thunder. Arik gripped the shard with both hands, forcing his mind into its humming core. If he could unlock it, if he could sync with it, if he could awaken whatever slept inside, humanity still had a chance. His thoughts raced. Memories surged. The fragment reacted to his emotions: fear, rage, hope. Especially hope. Light shot from the shard like a nova. Arik screamed as the force tore through his veins, burning like molten fire. The void recoiled, actual pain rippling through its distorted form. Rourke stared in disbelief. He's hurting it. Cade checked his displays. He's not just hurting it, he's overriding it. Arik felt the power expand, pushing outward, forming a barrier between the void and his people. For the first time, the void spoke with something that almost resembled fear. What are you? Arik stood tall, light blazing through his eyes as the shard fused to his palm, becoming part of him. He spoke with a voice that was no longer just his. Human. The void shrieked. The chasm collapsed, and the world changed. As the dust settled, the presence withdrew, dissolving into the horizon like a dying scream. Silence followed. Rourke staggered to him. "Auric, are you?" He turned to him. His eyes still glowed faintly. "I'm not the same," he whispered. "But I'm still me." Kate approached cautiously. "Auric, whatever awakened in you, it's connected to the shard. It's rewriting your neural lattice." He exhaled deeply. "Then we use it." Rourke frowned.
"For what?"
Auric looked at the rising sun, brighter now, stronger, as if the world itself had sensed hope returning. "For war," he said. "For truth, for Earth." His gaze hardened like steel. "For the sovereignty who think they can erase us." He holstered his rifle. The Blood Nebula burned like a wounded star as the hollow swarm closed in. Black tendrils writhed through the crimson fog, each one a shard of hunger sharpened by millennia. Where they passed, light dimmed, matter shivered. Meaning itself seemed to erode. Krath felt the pressure, first an invisible hand crushing the edges of his mind. Vorn gasped. "Alpha mental breach. You're trying to overwrite us." Aerith staggered against a bulkhead, blood dripping from his nose. "They're feeding on our doubts." Krath growled. "Then give them nothing." But doubt wasn't something one gave. It was something that climbed through the cracks, quiet, patient, merciless. And the hollow swarm lived inside those cracks. A boom shook the Vorn flagship. Lightning of black-violet energy cracked across the shields. Varon's voice trembled. That hit wasn't physical. It was conceptual. Krath's mandibles flexed. Then this will be a conceptual war. Before Vorn could brace themselves, the human fleet moved. Not with panic. Not with chaos. With intention. The smallest human frigate broke formation and flew straight into the heart of the swarm. Vorn hissed. "They're mad." But something about the motion, smooth, precise, fearless, made Krath stare. "Not mad," he murmured. "Certain," Aerith gasped. "Alpha." They're radiating conviction. They're projecting belief. "What belief?" Krath demanded. Aerith looked stunned. "That they were created for moments like this," Vorn scoffed. "No creatures created for annihilation." But Aerith shook his head slowly. "Not annihilation. Meaning, humans fight because they believe life has meaning." Krath swallowed the unfamiliar heaviness in his chest. Meaning was weakness. Or so the Vorn had taught themselves. But herein the blood-red darket was armor. A human voice came through the shared channel, CaptainEliasWard.com. Steady, unshaken. "All units," Ward said, "anchor your purpose." The human ship glowed faintly, not physically, the hull didn't ignite. But something in the aura of the vessel sharpened, like a blade pulled from its sheath. Krath felt it. Pulse, a warmth, not human, not Vorn. Something older, something like a breath beneath creation. Ward continued, voice low, steady. "Remember why you live. The swarm cannot consume a purpose that refuses to die." Krath bristled. "Purpose does not shield hulls." Ward responded without hesitation. "No, but it shields the mind inside them. And if the mind stands firm, the hull survives." Vorn snarled. "Absurd." Krath didn't answer. "Because the human frigate's maul, fragile, cut through the hollow tendrils as if parting smoke." The darkness recoiled. The void shifted. The swarm's movement stuttered. Aerith whispered, "They're hurting it. Not with weapons, but with presence." Krath watched closely. Humans weren't immune, but they were. Grounded, the hollow swarm tried to consume their thoughts and hit a wall. Not defiance, not arrogance, not rage. A quiet, stubborn belief that their existence was not meaningless. Ward's voice strengthened. "They hunger for emptiness. So give them a wall of purpose they can break themselves against." Krath felt his chest tighten. He had not felt this since youth, standing before the great trial flames, refusing to kneel, believing his life meant more than being the strongest. Before he buried the inconvenient belief that something greater breathed meaning into the stars. Flash split the nebula. A human cruiser unleashed a pulse of white-blue light, no typical weapon. The swarm shrieked soundlessly, recoiling like night fleeing dawn. Vorn shielded his eyes. "What was that?" Aerith trembled. "They weaponized coherence." Vorn blinked. "Coherence. That's philosophy. It is structure, Aerith whispered. A mind that knows who it is cannot be eaten. Krath's breath caught. The humans. They weren't wielding technology. They were wielding clarity. The clarity that Vorn had rejected centuries ago. Then one human voice echoed across channels. A young woman, steady, soft, certain. Guide us. We walk through shadows you made. Her voice wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Personal. A whisper meant for something unseen. Krath felt it like warm static against his spine. Farron frowned. What was that? Ward answered. Faith. Farron scoffed. In what? Some invisible protector. Ward didn't respond immediately. When he did, his words were gentle. In the idea that we're not alone in the void. There is order behind the chaos. Survival isn't just instinct, it's destiny. Krath froze. Destiny, the word echoed inside him like a forgotten flame. He had once believed something similar, before he drowned that belief in victory after victory. Before he convinced himself he was the apex because the universe had no higher intelligence. But the universe was a strange old place, and the humans. They acted like they weren't afraid of it. The hollow swarms surged again, massive tendrils collapsing inward, forming a singular spear aimed at the human cruiser. Ward shouted, "Brace!" The spear struck. The lights on the human vessel flickered. The hull shimmered. Shockwave rippled across the nebula. Krath felt something tear, something conceptual. Human minds faltered for a heartbeat. The swarm smelled the opening. Its tendrils lunged, black arcs wrapping the human vessel like a python crushing a beating heart. Aerith gasped. They can't hold that. Their belief is wavering. Krath felt his pulse pounding. The humans were strong, absurdly strong, but they were still mortal, still breakable. Ward's voice cracked for the first time. Hold the line. Then the tendrils tightened. Human crew screamed not in pain but in psychic pressure. The ship began to drift, forced to its knees like a titan being humbled. Varen whispered, they will be consumed. Krath felt a spark ignite deep inside him, a voice, his own, or something older. Help them. He clenched his fists. Vorn did not help prey. Humans were not prey. But Vorn did not help rivals. Humans were not behaving like rivals. And Vorn did not fight for meaning. But he needed to. Krath bellowed, Vorn, form the spear. Varen choked. Alpha. That maneuver is forbidden. Do I? The Vorn ship snapped into perfect formation, something not seen in centuries. A spear of black metal and crimson fire, ancient, brutal, unstoppable. The Vorn spear was not a blade. It was a declaration. Krath roared across. Comes human, clear a path. Ward, gasping under psychic strain, gritted out with pleasure. The human cruiser shifted aside, barely its hull cracking under pressure. Krath felt the universe tighten around him. Every Vorn ship channeled power to the flagship. Every warrior anchored their minds. Every instinct sharpened to a single point. The Vorn spear launched. A tearing beam of crimson force ripped through the hollow tendrils binding the humans. The swarm recoiled, screaming without sound. The human ship staggered free. Ward exhaled shakily. Alpha Krath. You just saved us. Krath growled. You are not prey. I do not allow my arena to be violated. But Ward heard something else beneath those words. Respect. The nebula trembled again. The swarm adapted shifting shape, forming a new intelligence. A new threat, Krath inhaled. Ward steadied himself. Aerith whispered prayers he didn't know he still remembered. And somewhere in the blood-red dark, a whisper brushed Krath's thoughts. Quiet, impersonal, vast. You are not alone in the void, Krath shivered. Not fear. Recognition. Ward's voice cut through. Alpha. They're evolving. If we don't strike together, we fall together. Krath nodded once. Then we hunt as one. The Vorn roared. And the hollow swarm gathered itself for a final, terrible... The Blood Nebula's crimson fog roiled like boiling blood, illuminated by streaks of white-blue light radiating from the human fleet. The hollow swarm had regrouped, its tendrils now shifting, merging into impossible angles, forming a shape that defied gravity, reason, and even time itself. It was no longer a swarm, but a monolith of darkness, a reflection of every predator's fear, every human doubt, every spark of life they had yet to ignite. Krath felt it first, a prickling awareness in his mind. This wasn't just a threat, it was a mirror. Varen's voice trembled as he pointed to the viewport. Alpha, it's copying us. Our fleet, our formation, even our intentions. It's as if it's reading us. Rith's claws dug into the railing. Not reading Alpha. It's showing us ourselves. Every weakness, every hesitation, it's reflecting it back at us. Krath's chest tightened. He felt the old, dangerous memory rising, the shame of his first defeat, the scar of a century-old mistake, the moment when the Vorn had believed themselves invincible. Here it was, woven into a monstrous entity floating in the void, almost sentient, almost alive with judgment. Ward's voice came through the shared channel, calm but strained. Everyone hold your line, don't flinch. The swarm wants more than destruction, it wants fear, it feeds on it. Krath's gaze sharpened. We do not flinch, we do not fear. We are apex for a reason, and yet, whispered Aerith, this mirror is stronger than any apex predator. Its hunger is, not for flesh, it's for meaning. It wants to break the very idea that we exist for a reason. Varen growled, then we teach it meaning. Krath's eyes narrowed. The Vorn spear formation adjusted, weapons lining the shape of a jagged blade pointing directly at the void mirror. But even as they advanced, every Vorn ship S crew could feel it. The swarm S reflections struck deeper than plasma or metal. Images began to pulse through the nebula, not on screens, not in displays in their minds. Krath saw his past victories, replayed in a loop of doubt. He saw soldiers who had fallen because of his orders, worlds he had conquered but failed to truly rule, decisions he had made in rage that had cost lives. And worse, he saw a future where the humans, small, fragile, unpredictable humans, rose above the Vorn he had thought invincible. Varen staggered, teeth bared. Alpha, it's showing us failure. Krath growled, clawed fists flexing. No, it shows possibility. Every reflection is a choice, Aerith hissed, gripping the edge of the console. But it's tempting. It's trying to make you hesitate. It's just 1 second of doubt, Alpha, and it will consume you. Krath's claws dug into the armrests. He closed his eyes for a fraction of a moment. Then he saw Hertha human Captain Ward, standing tall in the cum-feed, white-blue light flickering around his ship like a crown of purpose. Ward's eyes met his, even across the void. Krath, the mirror only works if you believe it controls you. We are here, we are not prey, and neither are you. Krath opened his eyes, and for the first time in a century he felt the weight of alliance not as a begrudging truce, but as something deeper. The Vorn spear surged forward. Plasma lances and missile pods lit the void. And yet as they struck, the swarm did not dissipate. Its mirror-like body split into multiple forms, hundreds of reflections of themselves. Each one screaming silently, each one radiating the exact fear and doubt it had extracted from the Vorn minds. Varen barked orders, his voice raw. Target their cores. Strike with everything. Krath shook his head. No. We strike with understanding. Varen froze. Explain, Alpha. Krath's eyes narrowed. Weapons can break flesh. Weapons cannot break purpose. The humans teach us a lesson. Focus your intent, your will, your reason for existing. Push the mirror back with conviction, not anger. Aerith blinked. Anchor your minds. Anchor your minds. That's what Ward said, too. Krath's claws clenched. Then do it. All of you. Focus, not on killing the swarm, on affirming your existence. Every thought, every breath, every heartbeat is your claim on this universe. Refuse to be erased. Vorn crews hesitated. The nebulous pressure was suffocating, almost sentient. But Krath's voice carried across the cums like molten steel. Do not doubt. Do not fear. Do not hesitate. You are Vorn. You are Apex. And above all, you exist for a reason. Ward's fleet surged beside them. Humans closed ranks, shielding the Vorn ships where they could, but more importantly, emitting a pulse of coherent thought. Their minds linked in silent prayer and determination, broadcasting a wave of clarity that the swarm could not consume. The mirror shrieked, its psychic scream tearing at the very fabric of the nebula. Tendrils split, twisted, and lashed outward, but every strike met a human shield of clarity, a Vorn shield of will. The first time the swarm faltered, Krath felt a strange warmth in his chest. Not physical, not divine in a traditional sense, but something larger than him, the faint, unmistakable hum of intention in the universe. As though the stars themselves were aligned behind the human's courage. He realized then that the swarm had never faced this before. It had fed on doubt, on fear, on emptiness, but it had never encountered unshakable conviction in beings that refused to bend. Krath raised his voice again, a guttural roar that shook the Vorn flagship. Humans, Vorn together. Anchor your minds, focus your reason, we exist, and nothing in the void will erase us. A brilliant pulse of white-blue light erupted from the human flagship, radiating outward like the dawn breaking a long, endless night. It connected with the Vorn spear formation, their weapons and intent merging into a single beam of spear, not of plasma, but of existence itself. The mirror shrieked. It twisted. It reflected every shadow back into itself. Every doubt it had extracted, every fear it had fed upon it, could not hold the weight of unified belief. And then, slowly, impossibly, it began to fracture. Krath could see his reflection in the fragmented swarm-old wounds, mistakes, failures, but they were no longer chains. They were lessons, sharpened into fuel for survival. The Vorn fleet advanced, synchronized with the humans. Every strike, every pulse, every maneuver was mind and will in harmony. The hollow swarm shrieked again, but now it was not in victory, it was in panic. It was losing cohesion, the mirrored fragments collapsing inward, devoured by the very clarity they had attempted to consume. Aerith fell to his knees, whispering prayers that Krath did not understand but felt the power of the universe. Listens. Krath's claws shook with exhilaration. Not from triumph, but from revelation. Humans, flawed, mortal, fragile humans, were capable of something the Vorn had long abandoned. Belief, faith, conviction. And for the first time, Krath realized the true essence of Apex, the will to exist beyond the material, beyond instinct, beyond fear. Vorn, staggering beside him, could only grunt, awestruck. Alpha. They walk through fire and don't burn. Krath exhaled slowly, eyes never leaving the fracturing swarm. Not fire, Vorn, purpose. The nebulous crimson fog shimmered, then slowly began to clear. Light returned, faint but undeniable. Stars shone again through the haze. The hollow swarm collapsed entirely into a black puddle of anti-light, leaving behind nothing but silence and a faint echo of its former presence. The Vorn fleet floated, battered but unbroken. The human ships hovered nearby, systems flickering but minds clear, radiating the quiet certainty of survival. Krath turned towards vessel. Comes open. You humans are formidable, he rumbled. Not because you are strong, but because you believe. Ward responded, a faint smile audible in his voice. And you, Krath, are learning what your own kind forgot. Fear is a tool, but conviction is a weapon. Krath nodded once, slowly. His gaze swept the nebula, the stars, the fragments of battle. A sense of quiet awe settled in him. Something vast, silent, and almost divine seemed to hang in the universe. Not a god in the way the humans spoke of it, but a quiet intelligence, a balance, a whisper that life's persistence mattered. Aerith murmured, Alpha. Did we just survive by faith? Krath's eyes darkened with thought. Not just faith. By refusing to let the universe tell us we are meaningless. That is power no predator, no species, can take from you, Vorn muttered. And yet, humans wield it naturally. Krath turned toward him, eyes hard but enlightened. Then we adapt, or we die trying. The galaxy is not ours by right, it is ours by will. Ward's voice came again. Krath, the nebula is stable for now. This isn't over. They will adapt. They always do. Krath clenched his fists. So will we. Arith's voice softened. Alpha, did the universe help us? Krath didn't answer immediately. He stared at the nebula, at the stars piercing the crimson fog. And somewhere deep inside, he felt it not a miracle, Not a voice, but a presence. It's a subtle rhythm that had guided their survival through countless near-deaths. Perhaps, he murmured finally, or perhaps it just waits for those willing to stand. The fleet regrouped. The nebula still pulsed faintly in red light, but the terror had passed. For the first time in eons, Krath felt a strange kinship, not just with the humans, but with the idea that life, purpose, and willpower could push back even the universe itself. Vorn leaned close. Alpha. What now? Krath's gaze hardened, unflinching. Now, we hunt forward, together, because the void will test us again. And next time, it will not be mercy we need, but the courage to survive the impossible. And as the first light of distant stars cut through the crimson haze, somewhere deep in the nebula, an echo whispered, "They believe, thus they exist." The calm that followed the hollow swarm's destruction was deceptive. The Blood Nebula still throbbed, a wounded heart pulsating in the void, painting the fleet in crimson and silver shadows. Yet in that deceptive stillness, a new awareness had awakened. Krath felt it first, a subtle vibration through the neural lattice of the flagship. Something far older than the hollow swarm, far wiser, far more patient. Presence like a predator stalking a predator. Vorn was the first to voice the unease. Alpha. Scans are picking up energy signatures. Nothing we've cataloged before. It's intelligent. Aerith leaned over the console, eyes wide. Not just intelligent. Calculating. And it's hiding. Watching us. Krath's gaze hardened. We have stirred something beyond comprehension. Sovereignty's evolved minds. They are aware of the humans. Of us. Ward's voice came through the coms, calm but tense. Krath. We need to assess the fleet. Hollow swarm is gone, but this is just the first wave. Sensors show residual quantum distortion. Signals of consciousness embedded in the void. They are observing, cataloging, preparing. Krath's mandibles flexed, muscles taut. Then we prepare to meet them. The human fleet moved into formation. Shields realigned, weapons online, but more importantly, the aura of resolve radiated outward.
Ow.
The humans were not just ships, they were a statement, life refusing erasure. The first signs appeared in the outer rim of the nebula. A fleet of vessels unlike any Krath had ever encountered materialized slowly, deliberately. They were not the hollow swarm, they were architects of obliteration. Ships of impossible geometry, angular yet fluid, each reflecting light in ways that seemed to bend reality. Their presence bent perception itself, making even seasoned Vorn pilots pause. Vorn growled, "What are those? They're impossible." Krath narrowed his eyes. Not impossible. Evolved. Sovereignty. The last minds. They have transcended everything we know. And they see the humans as anomalies. Threats. Aerith whispered, barely audible. They hunt differently than the swarm. They study, predict, and consume without touching. Their weapon is understanding, knowledge, anticipation. Ward's calm voice cut through the tension. Krath, these aren't just predators. They are intelligence perfected. But they still don't understand the one thing that makes us dangerous. Faith, ingenuity, and choice. Krath nodded slowly. The words resonated deep within his chest. Choice. The human strength was not in weapons, not in raw aggression, but in the conscious decision to exist, to resist, to endure. Something the sovereignty could never predict, because it had abandoned choice in favor of omniscience. The first contact was subtle. A ripple in space, a distortion that stretched the very perception of light and sound. Ships trembled, as if reality itself protested. Then the sovereignty fleet moved not fast, not blindly, but with deliberate precision. A human scout vessel was the first target. It wasn't destroyed immediately. Instead, the vessel's systems glitched, communications scrambled, as if the sovereignty's presence probed the crew's minds. Ward barked commands. Shield coherence. Synchronize minds. Focus on your purpose. Krath felt the mental assault through the lattice of his fleet, not just a physical attack, but a psychic one. The sovereignty sought to understand and rewrite the intention of its prey. Vorn trembled. Alpha, they're probing us. Reading, predicting our every move. Any hesitation, and we fall. Krath's eyes glowed faintly with an inner resolve. Then we move as one. Not as Vorn, not as humans, but as life refusing to be erased. Every ship, every mind, every heartbeat. Fight as if your existence itself is a weapon. Aerith's claws dug into the railing. Alpha, the humans. They're projecting willpower directly through their fleet. It's amplifying us. Krath felt it as strange resonance, a bridge between the Vorn and the humans. Purpose intertwined, forming a collective field of determination. The Sovereignty's attack faltered slightly. Its understanding, perfect as it was, could not account for unquantifiable will. Ward's voice rang in Krath's mind, clear and unwavering. They think we are small, weak, mortal, but they forget one thing. Life that refuses to yield is unpredictable, uncontrollable, dangerous. The Sovereignty fleet surged forward, dark and incomprehensible. Its geometry bent perception, each ship moving with eerie synchronicity, anticipating every conventional maneuver. Krath gritted his teeth. Then we break convention. Flank them from angles they cannot calculate. Move unpredictably, anchor on purpose, and strike where reason would not suggest. Varen's eyes widened. Impossible maneuvers, Alpha, even for Vorn. Krath's claws flexed. Nothing about them is conventional. We will fight with instinct, courage, and purpose. We will survive because they cannot predict the human heart. The first collision of fleets was nothing like previous encounters. Energy lances clashed with gravitational distortion fields. Ships bent and reformed, shadows folding into shadows. Yet amidst the chaos, the humans performed the impossible, maintaining formation, projecting coordinated will, and infusing purpose into every strike. Krath felt the effect in his own mind. His instincts sharpened. His strategy was no longer just tactical, it became philosophical. The human's courage amplified his own understanding that survival was not merely adaptation, but the assertion of meaning against the void. The Sovereignty's probe struck at his mind, feeding visions of fear, doubt, and failure. He saw worlds lost, allies dying, histories of conquest undone. But then he felt a human voice, a quiet whisper that cut through the psychic noise. We exist, we endure, we choose. It resonated like a bell, simple yet profound. Krath roared, rallying the Vorn crews. Do you hear that, Vorn? That is the strength of life that refuses to yield. Anchor on it. Strike on it. Make your existence a weapon, the fleet responded. Every ship focused, every mind aligned. A beam of collective will surge forward, colliding with the Sovereignty's advance. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend under the force not physics, not plasma, but intent made tangible. The Sovereignty reeled, unable to calculate the human factor. One vessel flickered and destabilized. Another fractured under the combined psychic resonance of human and Vorn conviction. Krath realized the truth. The Sovereignty's evolved minds were brilliant. Yes, but their intelligence was absolute, rigid. They understood everything except the unpredictable resolve of life that chooses to continue, no matter the odds. Ward's fleet surged alongside the Vorn spear, their cohesion creating pockets of safe space amidst the incomprehensible attacks. Ships that would have fallen without hesitation now held. Shields rippled, augmented not by technology alone but by sheer intent and belief. Krath felt it in his chest, a rhythm of survival, a quiet affirmation echoing across the void. Not a god in form, not a voice in the wind, but a presence that hummed through every act of courage, every decision to endure. He growled, not in fear but in exhilaration. They hunt the wrong prey. Cannot destroy will. Aerith's voice trembled with awe. Alpha, the humans. They are rewriting the rules of engagement itself. Reality bends to their courage. Varen gritted his teeth. Then we continue. We strike together, humans and Vorn alike. Krath nodded. The fleets moved in perfect synchrony, striking not with brute force alone but with purpose, conviction, and unshakable will. The Sovereignty's line faltered. Ships destabilized, shadows splintered. The void itself quivered as life refused to be extinguished. And somewhere in the dark, a whisper resonated, not human, not Vorn, but ancient and quiet. Life persists. Even against the architects of erasure, Krath felt it settle in his bones, a subtle, unspoken assurance. Not a miracle, not intervention, simply the rhythm of the universe favoring those who refuse to be erased. He bellowed across the cums, voice echoing like thunder. Forward, strike with purpose. Anchor on the strength of your existence. Make them remember that life, even fragile, is unpredictable and unstoppable. The fleet surged as one, moving through impossible geometry. Through reality-bending distortions, carrying with them the defiance of life itself, the sovereignty had encountered many forms of resistance, but never coordinated life that believes in its right to exist. And in that defiance, the Blood Nebula had begun to clear. But the victory of the first confrontation was only a whisper against the roar of the galaxy. Krath's flagship floated amid the fractured remnants of the hollow swarm, human vessels aligned like a shield of white-blue determination. The Vorn were weary, but alive. The humans, resilient, unshakable, were guiding them through lessons the apex predator had long forgotten. Yet even as the fleet stabilized, a tremor ran through the nebula's edge. Something vast, ancient, and aware had stirred. Vorn was the first to voice the dread. Alpha, readings off the charts. Nothing biological, nothing like the sovereignty we've encountered. It's older. Arith's claws grip the rail. Older than stars, or older than thought itself. I sense awareness, strategy, patience measured over eons. Krath's mandibles flexed, muscles tightening. The sovereignty's lesser minds were dangerous, but this is something that has watched civilizations rise and fall. It has observed humanity since they crawled from their homeworld. It has noted our every success, our every failure. Ward's calm, commanding voice came through cums, tinged with steel. Krath, whatever it is not here to test strength. It is here to study, to learn, to judge, and ultimately, to control. Krath's eyes darkened with thought, control. Well, they see humans as anomalies, threats to their order. That is why they will come. And when they do, they will strike not at flesh, but at intent, at mind, at the very essence of our will. Aerith shivered, and we fight differently. Not with weapons, but with. It's everything we are. Every heartbeat, every thought, every ounce of resolve. That is our arsenal against it. The nebula darkened further, black waves rippling through the red mist as the ancient mind made its presence known. Ships began to flicker, sensors distorted. Communication feeds hummed with strange interference, not random, not chaotic, but deliberate, almost sentient in its disruption. Krath growled, "They want to test us individually. To see where our convictions falter." Vorn's voice was low, trembling. "Alpha, they are scanning our minds, probing our intentions. Every hesitation, every doubt is being catalogued." Ward's voice cut through, unwavering. "Good. Let them learn that life refuses to yield. Let them see that courage is not a calculation, that hope is not a formula, that humanity and, now the Vorn who fight alongside us, cannot be predicted." Krath flexed his claws, muscles taut with a primal excitement. "Then we fight not for victory alone, but for the affirmation of existence itself." The fleets moved. The humans took point, radiating clarity and purpose. The Vorn followed, their instincts sharpened by the resonance of the humans' conviction. The ancient mind struck next a wave of psychic pressure unlike anything the Vorn had encountered. A mental storm that clawed at memory, sense, and identity simultaneously. Ships shuddered, minds screamed silently against the assault. Arith faltered, clutching his head. "Alpha, it is perfect. It sees everything. It knows everything. It is trying to rewrite who we are." Krath's voice cut through, roaring, "We are not prey. We are not subjects. We exist by choice. We endure by will. We strike by purpose. Anchor on that." The human fleet pulsed in response, not physically but psychically. Their unified belief acted like a beacon in the void. Ward's voice rang clear across the psychic battlefield. "Focus on your reason for living. Anchor your mind on purpose. Your life fun, predictable, defiant, unstoppable." The ancient mind recoiled briefly. It had calculated patterns, probabilities, and possibilities, but it could not account for a collective will that defied prediction. The human's courage was a variable it could not quantify. The Vorn's instinct, now aligned with human intent, became a force the ancient mind had never encountered. Purpose expressed as action and thought simultaneously. Krath felt a strange warmth in his chest. Not divine in the way legends described, but present. A quiet rhythm in the universe itself, as if the cosmos itself supported life that refused to yield. Vorn whispered, awestruck. Alpha, it cannot comprehend it. The humans. They are bending reality itself with conviction. Krath's mandibles flexed in acknowledgement. Not bending reality, revealing it. Purpose makes reality, not technology. The ancient mind adjusted, striking again, this time with surgical precision, targeting the human's weakest linksor, so it assumed. One vessel flickered, then another. The psychic waves tore through the void, creating ripples that distorted space and perception. Ward's calm voice resonated like steel. Do not flinch. The moment you doubt, they win. Anchor your existence. Krath's fleet braced. Each ship acted in concert, not merely through orders, but through a shared understanding of purpose. The humans' will became contagious, radiating through the Vorn crews, synchronizing minds, intentions, and hearts. The ancient mind pulsed again, this time shaping reality around them. Tendrils of thought twisted through the void, trying to rewrite the past, present, and future in one simultaneous strike. Ships faltered under the psychic onslaught. Pilots saw memories that were not theirs, visions of conquest and defeat, hope and despair, imposed by a mind older than the stars themselves. Krath roared, standing on the bridge, claws extended, eyes glowing with resolve. We exist, and our existence is not yours to erase, humans responded, radiating purpose like a shockwave. Ward's fleet emitted a white-blue resonance, connecting to the Vorn spear, merging human conviction with Vorn instinct. The ancient mind struck again, and for a moment, it seemed as if the void itself would tear apart. But then, something shifted. The ancient mind faltered. Its attacks, precise as they were, could not consume the unpredictability of life. Humans and Vorn alike radiated clarity, faith, and determination. Each heartbeat became a signal of defiance, each thought a spike in psychic resonance. The ancient mind had calculated everything except for the courage that refuses calculation. Krath's voice thundered across the coms. Strike together, not with weapons alone, but with every thought, every heartbeat, every ounce of will. Make them remember that life is unpredictable. The fleet surged, merging intent and action into a spear of existential force. The ancient mind's psychic tendrils began to fracture under the combined human and Vorn conviction. Its perfect logic was collapsing against the raw unpredictability of life that chose to endure, that refused to yield. Aerith whispered, almost in awe, Alpha, we are not just fighting. We are asserting existence itself. Vorn's voice trembled, and they cannot predict it. Krath's claws flexed. Then we make them remember. We are not prey. We are apex. Because we choose to be alive, even in the face of the infinite. The ancient mind pulsed violently one last time, a wave of psychic energy that threatened to tear ships apart. But the united will of humans and Vorn held fast. Purpose acted as armor, conviction as shield, life itself as a weapon. A ripple of light, subtle yet undeniable, washed across the fleets. Reality seemed to bend back into alignment. The ancient mind recoiled, and for the first time, its presence felt tentative. It had not been destroyed, far from it, but it had encountered a force it could not dominate. Krath exhaled, chest heaving. He had not felt such exhilaration since the trials of his youth, when victory was measured not by conquest, but by endurance. He glanced at the humans, radiating quiet courage, unwavering in their resolve. Ward's voice, calm but triumphant, echoed, Krath, now understand. They can observe, they can calculate, they can adapt, but life that refuses to yield. Life that believes in its right to exist. It's unassailable. Krath's eyes narrowed, glowing with renewed determination. Then we move forward, not just to survive, but to teach the galaxy the lesson of life that refuses erasure. Aerith muttered softly, almost reverently, Alpha, do you think the universe itself is on our side? Krath did not answer immediately. He looked into the darkened expanse of the Blood Nebula, the stars piercing the crimson haze, and felt a subtle presence, not a god, not an entity, but a rhythm of order behind the chaos, a quiet intelligence guiding the resilience of life. Perhaps, he murmured finally, or perhaps it merely waits for those willing to stand. Vorn leaned close. Ilfa, the ancient mind will return. Krath's gaze hardened. Then we will be ready, because next time it will not merely test us. It will come to destroy the unpredictable, and we will show it. That life, faith, and willpower cannot be erased. The fleets regrouped.
Ow.
The nebula still pulsed faintly in red and black, but the terror had shifted. A new war had begun, not of territory, not of conquest, but of survival, purpose. And the assertion of life itself against an intelligence older than the stars? Krath stared into the void, feeling the echo of life and courage reverberate through every fiber of his being. Somewhere deep in the nebula, the ancient mind observed, calculating, but unprepared for the unpredictable force it had encountered. And as the first light of distant galaxies shimmered on the horizon, a quiet, almost imperceptible whisper echoed through the consciousness of the fleet. Life persists. Those who believe will always defy the inevitable. The Blood Nebula had become a cathedral of red and black light. A place where stars seemed to bleed into the void, and silence carried a weight heavier than any battle cry. Krath's flagship hovered at the forefront, the Vorn fleet aligned like living blades, and the human ships carved white-blue streaks of resolve through the crimson fog. This time there would be no hollow swarm, no fractured shadows to mislead them. Only the ancient mind, the ultimate predator, the perfect intelligence, watching, calculating, waiting to decide who would exist. Krath's mandibles flexed as he surveyed the nebula. Every instinct screamed tension, every sensor screamed warning. But more than that, deep inside he felt a strange resonance, the human's courage, the Vorn's instinct, the quiet rhythm of life itself, something older than species, older than worlds anchoring him. Vorn's voice broke the silence. Alpha, I've never seen anything like this. The mind, it's shaping the nebula itself. Gravity, light, even time it bends to it. Our maneuvers, our strategies, every option we consider, it predicts before we act. Aerith hissed. It's as if the void itself is alive, as if the universe is bending to its will. Krath's eyes narrowed. Then we remind the universe who we are. We strike not merely with weapons, but with purpose. Every heartbeat is a pulse of defiance. Every thought is a weapon. Every act of will is a rebellion against erasure. Ward's calm, unwavering voice came through the comms. Krath. This is it, the moment where life itself faces the ultimate question. Will we exist, even against a mind older than the stars? We cannot win with brute force, but we can win with will, ingenuity, and defiance. The fleets advanced, moving as one, humans and Vorn, instinct and intellect, courage and purpose intertwined. The ancient mind struck first. Psychic tendrils tore through the void, attempting to rewrite the very perception of reality. Ships flickered and trembled as if they had been pulled out of existence itself. Islet saw visions of endless defeat, memories of failures magnified into nightmares, histories of civilizations erased before they could rise. Krath roared, claws flexing, mandibles snapping with focus. Anchor your minds. This is not reality, is a test. We choose to exist. The human fleet pulsed in response, their collective intent forming a shield of white-blue resonance. Ward's voice carried like steel in the storm. Hold on, every breath is your weapon. Every heartbeat is your claim on existence. Krath felt it, the ancient mind recoiling. For the first time encountering something it could not calculate, the raw, unquantifiable force of life that refuses to yield. The Vorn, guided by instinct, moved unpredictably, synchronized with the human's clarity, forming patterns of attack and defense the mind could not anticipate. Vorn gritted his teeth. Alpha, it's trying to break us mentally. Every hesitation, every doubt, it magnifies tenfold. Krath growled, then refused to hesitate, refused to doubt. Our lives, our purpose, our very existence cannot be rewritten by anything. The ancient mind struck again, shaping the nebula into impossible forms, twisting gravity, bending light into razor edges, and attempting to fracture the fleets before they could react. Yet with each strike, the humans and Vorn adapted not with calculation alone, but with creativity, courage, and intuition. Aerith whispered in awe, "They can predict everything, except that we choose to fight anyway." Krath's voice rang over the fleet, commanding and fierce. "Forward, not just with ships, but with will. Every vessel, every mind, every heartbeat, press forward or be erased." The combined force surged, not as a fleet but as a single organism, a living statement of defiance. The ancient mind's tendrils fractured against the human's unity and the Vorn's unpredictability. One by one, the psychic strikes faltered. Its attacks were brilliant, precise, yet they could not account for imagination, faith, or courage. Ward's fleet amplified the resonance, projecting clarity and purpose across the battlefield. Krath realized the humans were not just allies, they were a catalyst. Their courage amplified the Vorn, transforming instinct into strategy, fear into focus, and survival into an unbreakable weapon. Varen's voice trembled. "Alpha, it's faltering. Our will, it's too much." Krath's eyes burned with exhilaration. "Yes, strike together. Strike with every heartbeat, every thought, every act of defiance. Make them remember what it means to challenge life itself." The ancient mind's form shuddered, the very fabric of the nebula bending and snapping under the combined force of will. Ships that should have been destroyed held, as if reality itself was being rewritten by purpose and belief. The mind's attacks became desperate, wild, and fragmented, striking at nothing and everything simultaneously. Aerith cried out, gripping the console. "Alpha, it's trying to flee, to escape our combined will." Krath growled, a primal sound of triumph. "Then we pursue it not with weapons, but with the force of our existence. Every strike, every maneuver, every thought, show it that life is unpredictable, unquantifiable, unstoppable." The fleet surged forward, human and Vorn minds synchronized like a living lattice of intent. Energy and will converged, forming a spear not of matter, but of defiance itself. The ancient mind writhed, bending reality, twisting perception, but the combined conviction of humans and Vorn pressed against it like the tide against a cliff. Krath felt a presence in the void, a subtle, quiet hum, almost divine. Not a god in form, not a voice in the wind, but a rhythm of creation itself. Flowing through courage, endurance, and faith, he realized the universe itself seemed to favor those willing to stand against the impossible. Varen whispered, almost reverently, "Alpha, the universe itself is responding to us." Krath's eyes narrowed. "Then we give it a reason to continue. We exist, and we will endure." The ancient mind screamed not in sound, but in reality, twisting and collapsing under the unquantifiable force of life that refuses erasure. Fragments of its presence shattered, dissipating into the void like smoke caught in a cosmic wind. Not destroyed, but humbled, forced to retreat, to reconsider, to witness that existence is not always predictable, not always controllable. Ward's voice, steady and unwavering, came through. "Krath, we've done it, not by strength, but by asserting the right to exist." By refusing to be erased, Krath's mandibles flexed, his chest heaving. "Yes, and the lesson is clear. Apex is not about dominion or fear. It is about will, purpose, and defiance. Life persists because it chooses to." Aerith muttered softly, almost in awe. "Alpha, do we just fight the impossible and win?" Krath's gaze swept across the fleet, humans and Vorn alike. He felt an unfamiliar warmth, quiet, unspoken presence. The subtle rhythm of something larger, guiding life without intervening, encouraging without dictating. Perhaps, he murmured, the universe always favors those who refuse to yield. Varen leaned close, whispering, "Alpha, will it come back?" Krath's eyes hardened with determination. "Yes, the ancient mind will return, and it will be stronger, wiser, more deliberate. But we will be ready. Because next time, it will face not just predators and prey, but life that refuses to be predicted, controlled, or erased." Ward's voice, calm but resolute, carried across the fleet. "Then we move forward. Together, humans, and Vorn, not for conquest. It's not for survival alone, but to assert the right to exist in a galaxy that would prefer otherwise. Krath flexed his claws, feeling the pulse of life in the nebula. Forward, then. For every heartbeat, every thought, every life that refuses to be erased, let the galaxy know. Humanity, and those who choose to stand beside them, are unconquerable. The Blood Nebula began to shift, stars piercing the crimson haze as fleets moved forward. The ancient mind had retreated, but its shadow lingered, an eternal reminder of the universe's challenges. Yet, in that darkness, a light persisted, the defiance of life, the courage of the humans, the instinct of the Vorn, and the quiet rhythm of existence itself. Krath stared into the void, eyes glowing with clarity and resolve. Somewhere deep in the nebula, a whisper echoed, not human, not Vorn, but ancient and eternal. Those who choose to exist always find a way to defy the impossible. And in that moment, Krath understood. The apex is not defined by dominance, but by courage, creativity, and the unshakable will to live in humanity had taught him that truth. The fleet surged onward, into the unknown, into battles yet to come. The galaxy would tremble, worlds would fall, and civilizations would rise and fall. The defiance of life, the courage of humans, and the will of the Vorn would persist in eternal testament to the power of existence itself.